Hey guys, welcome back to another Weird Wednesday. I'm Ashers, and this is
Dr. X.
See, it's not a surprise this time.
I know.
So we just tried to we attempted to record this week's podcast, and we had some technical difficulties. So we got about 10 minutes into it before that happened. So we've already done this intro once.
Which is crazy because we started 10 minutes early, and I'm like, oh, awesome. We'll start early tonight, and we'll finish early, and can watch an episode of Harley Quinn with my son before bed. And
no, that's what it was right there. Yeah, you're not allowed to have.
Someone's gonna have to explain that to him. Someone's gonna have to sit him down and tell him your daddy can't watch Harley Quinn with you tonight.
Why do you guilt trip me? It's not my fault. You need to call my internet provider and blame them.
No, whatever CIA operative that monitors us that hit the kill switch. I think it was my explanation about the bubonic plague breeding people that are AIDS resistant.
Yeah, it might have been. Oh my God, you're right. We were talking about that.
Right. Well, if it fails again, we'll know definitely that it's because the CIA hit the kill switch on the show.
So
100%.
What we were introducing with you guys this week is that Pat and I were both exposed to COVID at the same exact time, pretty much, and
right.
We've both been in quarantine basically, and Pat's family has all tested negative, while I am still awaiting my results. So
which you should get those tomorrow, right?
I hopefully should. I just got the test done yesterday, which is Monday. So I should get them tomorrow. Now, from what I'm hearing, if I if I test negative, then 10 days is all I had to quarantine.
Yeah, they changed it.
Right. So if I get my test results tomorrow and they're negative, then I'm good to go. Now, if I test positive, from what I hear, is that my quarantine starts over.
Right.
So that sucks.
Yeah, we were really dumbfounded. I think we were planning on I thought they even thought their tests were going to come back positive.
Yeah.
And then I was going to go get tested and I was going to get positive, and we were going to have an extended vacation. And we were going to, and nope.
we were kind of talking about that before, but yeah, somehow, so far, I've been okay. I haven't really had any symptoms, so, we'll see, but you never know. And, I think for me, I've worried so much of whether or not I've had it. And I've got other health issues. I've had other things going on, but they're not directly, it could be COVID and it could not be. So I think that having at least that peace of mind to know that it's not helps.
Right.
So, because people say all the time, don't get tested if you're not sick or whatever. Well, asymptomatic is very much a thing. 40% of people that have this virus are asymptomatic.
Right. And there's also people in your high risk people like you want to be able to get out ahead of it. Right. So you don't want to wait until you have 105-degree fever and you can barely breathe to I should go get tested. You want to know now while you can still get your ass to the hospital and put your affairs in order.
Yeah.
And
right.
and you want to get hooked up to an IV, not a ventilator.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Right. Exactly. So I did it. I got the test, and I did not get my daughter tested. She seems fine. But she's young, so I don't know. I don't know. As long as she seems fine, I think it's not a big deal. She is getting to that age anyway where she just hates me and wants to hang out in a room all the time. So whatever. But we were talking about, before our previous broadcast got interrupted by the government, we were actually discussing how Pat and I partied together on New Year's.
Right.
Even though we were both in quarantine. Yeah, we did this virtual party thing, and kind of the idea of it, which me and Ann kind of just did it on a whim and tested it out and saw what we could see, and because Ann was going to be over here anyway for New Year's, and then she wasn't, so that kind of put a damper on our sexy plans. But anyway, so I kind of wanted to test out and see how we could go about doing something live for the podcast, and I wanted to see what if this would be a viable option. So we used Facebook Rooms, which is kind of like Zoom. It gives everybody their own spot. Everybody can interact. As opposed to I'd ask some of my streaming friends, what they use to stream, and some of the things that they use, it's just not the same thing. It's just not. And I'm like, I don't think what they're doing is going to work, because while you can have chats open and things like that, you can't have people just freely popping in and out of the stream. And
well, that's if that's what you if that's what you're going for. I mean, I think that if we were to do the show, we wouldn't want like random. I mean, it might be kind of funny, but
I think it
random
would be a
people,
great time. Yeah, I think it'd be hilarious. I mean,
random people on Facebook just popping in
I mean, we can kick
like
them out
my
if we need to.
extended family and shit. Yeah, so like I did that throughout the course of the night, and I ended up doing an extended one with my buddy Mike on Instagram,
Yeah.
and that interface was pretty easy as well.
It's probably the same. I mean, they're owned by the same company. Facebook owns Instagram, so it's probably pretty much the same.
Right, but I mean, I think earlier in the night I was watching something with Chris Pratt where he was doing like a fundraiser on Instagram, and he was having different people pop in and stuff, and that's kind of what got us the idea of like, oh, let's try to do this on Instagram, and it worked good. I mean, it depends. I guess what you got to do is you got to look at like all my social media accounts are vastly different, right?
Right.
So I think you'd have to look at like where your fan base is. So I wouldn't mind doing it on Facebook, and like obviously we did it, and it was fun and everything. But I feel like if we were to do it on Instagram or something, it might have maybe more people that would pop in and watch, or that I would want to pop in and watch.
I don't have a good following on Instagram. Like I don't have
really.
Yeah, I can't. I'm not an Instagrammer. I don't know why.
That's crazy because you're visual in your stuff.
What Pat's
I
trying
don't
to say
know
is
how to
that I
express that
often
one.
have my boobs hanging out. That's fine. Um, anyway, no, I don't know why. I think it's because whatever you can find on my Instagram, you can find on Twitter, and whatever you can find. Well, not everything's on Facebook, but my Facebook's doesn't have as much. But I think I don't know, for some reason I just I don't have a big following over there. I don't know why. But I
Yeah.
don't really get on there a lot either. Maybe if I engaged more, and I don't, I probably would. But either way, I did not think the Facebook rooms was a good way to go, because the biggest issue with that is that you can't record.
Yeah.
I would like to record it and put it somewhere for after. Not everybody can make it at one certain time, but they would like to join in.
Well, you can also use Periscope and then stream it to Twitter.
Okay.
But once again, it doesn't let other people come in. Like I think if your big thing is that you want other people to pop in and out, I don't know if you would have to host a Zoom call and then send out an invite link.
Yeah.
Like if this is something that you really want to do, like we can explore that or figure that out. But like, going back to New Year's Eve though. I think it was like what was crazy was that you were the only person that I knew that was doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And it was such a great idea that as soon as we got off, I throughout the course of the night ended up harassing all my other friends, because you know how you can do like the video call on Facebook and stuff like that. And they were all kind of doing the same thing. Everyone was at home, like either on their computer or on their phone, and just kind of drinking and doing. And it was like, why didn't we? I wish we had, for the amount of time that we spent in 2020 on Zoom, either because we were remote learning or because we were remote teaching or because we had business meetings or something. You would think that when it came time to New Year's Eve, it would be almost a knee-jerk reaction to, oh, we should do this, or we should plan this, like, oh, so-and-so's hosting like a Zoom chat or something.
It's really easy for socially to do. And I never video chat with anybody.
Well, now you know how to.
I mean, I do my sister. So my sister's deaf. So in order for me to talk to her, I can't call her on the phone. I gotta chat her up on the video phone. But I don't know. I never do it. But it was fun. But it could be. I mean, it's the more people you have, obviously, the more crowded it gets.
Right.
Which is just, with any situation. Whereas like in a real life social situation, you just walk off to the side and, go talk to somebody. You can't do that on the video call, and, which is fine. But no, I get what you're getting at. Like, it's so easy. And then like on the Facebook thing, you can there's like movies you can watch together and shit. Did you notice that?
Yeah. No, that's really cool.
Yeah, there's movies that you can watch, and it's not just like public domain, like shit movies. Like one of the first movies that popped up was like the new Blair Witch movie, and it's like, what? And there's a lot of different kinds, and so you can like watch stuff together. It is really interesting, but going back to the streaming thing, I don't think, I guess I don't want random people to be able to just pop in and out, but if we could invite other people on while we're having this happen, I guess that's what I would like to do. And I would like suggestions from the audience on how to do that. So if you've got, suggestions on what to try next, we could definitely try it. Cause I think we've talked about taking the show live for a minute, and we're getting there. we're working up to it.
Well, doing like a video chat, we could definitely do that where we just sent the link out to people,
Right.
and then people can pop in, like when I was on my old podcast and we had you on as a guest,
Yeah.
and we were waiting for that one dude to show up.
Yeah.
Just like when he finally got around to clicking the link, boom, he popped on. So it's like you could send the link to 15 people and just say, hey, if you're going to come on, just shoot me a text first and I'll let you know if it's clear, because we only want 3-4 people on this thing at a time. So I think that part of it is very easy to do. How you would then stream everything live, I don't know, but I mean, that's what Google's there for.
We'll figure it out. But anyway,
yeah.
So that was our New Year's, but it was, it wasn't the New Year's that I was expecting, but it was New Year's, so it was,
Yeah.
And then the next day, the first, was just a fucking shit show. So we had to go and put down my 16-year-old cat, which was hard. It was, it wasn't an easy thing to do, but I guess it was the right thing to do. So anyway, so we take her in and she's having issues. She had a tumor removed back in like September, and she had a memory tumor. And, because she's 16, we decided to not pay for the testing to see if it was cancer or not, because we weren't going to treat it anyway. And it's like $300 to test that tumor for cancer. And so, and we were already spending like $1,500 on the surgery. And, but they did her blood work and everything before to make sure she could handle anesthesia. And it was good. It was great, actually. And, but they did it, and they said it didn't look great. It was pretty deep in there, but they took it out and she was happy. She had a great couple months. And, anyway, so, we took her, come to find out it was cancer. It's spread all over her body, and that's that. But when things like this are happening, so we had this happen as well back in the beginning of all this, back in April or March. And so it's a little confusing because I say my cat. Now these other animals that I consider mine live at my mom's house. I don't live at my mom's house. I've got my own home, and I've got 2 cats of my own at home that I've had for 10 years. But my mom works 12-hour shifts, and so I take care of her animals quite a bit. So that's like my second home. So I go over there and I'm there pretty much part-time, and then at my house part-time. So these are still considered my pets. So the one cat we had back in March, she had a random freak medical emergency, and we took her to the emergency vet, and she died. And that, she died on her own. It was crazy. They think she was bleeding internally, but they really couldn't find out what was going on. But when we went, we sat out in the parking lot of the emergency vet for about 4 hours and just kind of waited and didn't really know what to do. You're not allowed to go into these places. And, your pets, they're like your family members. And can you imagine if that was like your mom or your brother or your best friend, and you can't, it's the same shit in the hospitals. You can't really go in there with them unless like it's right at the end of life and you can go say goodbye. So in both cases, with the cat on Friday and the cat in March, we couldn't go in until it was time. And so that was really difficult. But what was interesting about it all was that, so the cat that we put down recently, that was like my first bonded pet. That was like we got her when I was a teenager. So, I mean, I've basically had her this whole time. And, so that was my baby. A week before we put her down, I had a dream about putting her down. And I've kind of talked about this a little bit, but I've got some, I'm clairvoyant, and I've got some mediumship. This is more clairvoyancy. So I dreamt about this, and I dreamed that we were putting her down, but she was loud about it. And so when we were at the vet, I was there with my mom, and she's like, I told her, I was like, when they're actually, I want to go in, I want to say goodbye, but I don't want to stay. And she's like, why? I'm like, because I already know that she's going to be loud about it. That's gonna, I have to go on then and live with that for the rest of my life. Well, so she's like, okay, I understand. We get in there, and she had already had like her IV put in, and that was my big fear, was that, and that was what the dream was about. They put the IV in, and then she started, meowing like crazy. That was my dream, but the IV was already in, so I was like, okay, well, I'll stay. Well, no, she still ended up making a bunch of noises, not because of the drugs or anything like that. It's because of what we took her in for. She was in pain. It wasn't great, and but I handled it a lot better than I thought. But it was really interesting that, again, I had dreamt about this a week prior when she wasn't having any issues. So that was, great. That was a wonderful way to start the new year. Gosh, if you thought 2020 was bad, I feel like 2021 is going to be something special, and for multiple reasons. So that happened. It was rough. I'm okay. I don't have a choice but to be, and, hopefully we get her back tomorrow. So that's great.
Right. And tonight's show is kind of in honor of her.
It is. Yes. Tonight is going to be, strictly dedicated to my cat, which, makes me sound like a crazy cat lady, but you know what? I love my pets. I do. And I'm not like, everybody's always like, oh, you're a cat person because you have two cats. The only reason why I have two cats and no dogs at my house is because my cats won't let me have dogs, and they're big ass cats. So, and then they're mean towards dogs, but I like all the animals, and, they're like my kids, and that's rough because, your kids usually outlive you. So your pets don't.
Right. If you're lucky,
Right.
Yeah.
If you're lucky. Yeah. It should be that way, but your pets don't. So it's been interesting. So yeah, this is for my cat. But her name was Kitty Cat. That was her name. Casey, Kitty Cat. It was so creative, I know. So we had that happen. So Friday was the day I was supposed to get my COVID test. And obviously that didn't occur because I'm at the vet. I'm exposed, it was just kind of a weird situation. Cause again, we just did this a couple months ago, and we're sitting in the car and we're like, do we leave? Do we, do we stay? What do we do here? And it was really, the whole thing was sad because like, it's an emergency vet, strictly an emergency vet. And you see people walk in and walk out without their pets. And it's like, oh, wow. So it must have been a bad day for animal mortality. I don't know what's going on there.
It's like sit in the parking lot of an abortion clinic. Fat girls come in, skinny girls come out.
It is like that. And it's not funny. It's really sad, but it is exactly like that. So I don't, it was just an experience. That's for sure. So then eventually then Monday I was able to I got my COVID test, and here we are. So it's been just a fucking hell of a week. It really has been.
So I never had pets growing up. I had like turtles and hamsters and like chameleons and like shit that like would last 6 months and then whatever, you know what I mean? I have a dog now, and he's a rescue dog, and he's got 3 legs. And I think if he came down with cancer, I'd probably just shoot him or something. I don't. It's weird because like, first of all, I don't think I would pay for my cat to have chemo, and it's not just because of the way I feel about cats. And we'll get to that in a minute.
No.
I think that like and like I've had employees like call off of work because their dogs die. And like, I get it, man. Like, I see what a part of the family like Tucker is and shit. Like, and if something were to happen to him, I know my kid would be upset, and I would probably be upset about it too. But I don't know. I don't think I would pay for him to have like lung surgery or anything crazy. I think at the end of the day, it's like it's an animal. Like, I'm not gonna like max out a credit card so I can keep him alive for another 4 months. You know what I mean?
I guess there is a difference.
Maybe I'm cheap. I'm kind of, people call me cheap. So like, it might be that, but like, I don't know. Like, how do you set a dollar? Like, how do you set a dollar amount? Because people will say, oh, it's a family, it's like a part of the family. It's a family member. How much would you pay to keep your kid alive? I would fucking steal from other people to keep my kid alive. I would rob people to keep my kids alive. My dog, what do I got in my pocket? You know what I mean? Like, I know I would make an effort, but like I wouldn't go fucking crazy the way some people do. And I don't think you
Yeah.
did. I don't think you did. Like I understand when you were like, yeah, we'll pay to get the tumor removed, but like that other shit, like whatever, it'll be fine. We'll figure out what we need to know then. I feel like that was a very measured response, although $1,500-$1,600 is probably more than I would spend in the first place.
It's
But
hard to make that decision. So like when we took her to the vet this Friday, right? We brought her in. So the reason why she was there, really, which is kind of what I've been grappling with and I've been struggling with, was because she was having a really bad case of constipation. Now we didn't know that at the time. We just knew that she kept having these, she was trying to push and you could see that in her stomach. And we're like, what is going on? So that's why we took her to the vet. We took her to the vet, and the vet's like, well, she is having constipation issues, but, with her history and stuff, her breathing's not good. You can hear all the fluid in there. She's probably, this is probably it. And so, he gave us the choice right then to go ahead and euthanize, or we could do it in steps. He could take an x-ray, see what he sees there. If there's more there, we could go further. If there's more there, we can go further and take it as far as we wanted to go. So we took the x-ray, and in the x-ray, you can see it. I mean, it's all over her body. There's cancer all over her body. And, at that point decided to put her down. And we, my mom and I we discussed it in the car, talking about, weighing the pros and cons. And what we ultimately decided was having that peace of mind, knowing that we were not just putting her down because she had to poop, was worth the $350 that the x-ray cost. So it just depends. Some people see their pets as equals to them. I'm one of those people. And that's what her and I were kind of talking about. I said, I understand the money factor. And I told her, I said, I'm the dumbass that will spend all the money in the world until the very last moment, until they just die on their own. That's me. That's just what I'll do. Is it smart? No, it's not. But I'm emotional. I'm an emotional person. And so that's how I would react emotionally. And that's what I do,
I'll go out and get lunch and buy my dog food. Like I'll go to the Greek place around here and like get him like a cheeseburger and like, here you go. And like, or get like a fry for him. And like, you know what I mean? Like I'll treat him part of the family like that, but
well, and you don't know
like
yet, until you get to that point, you might have a different response when it happens.
No, because they prescribed him anti-anxiety medicine for when we cut his toenails, and I steal it sometimes when I'm bored. Like I take my dog's pills straight up. Like that's how little I give a shit about him. Like I'll steal your medicine, motherfucker. Like you should learn to hide your pills when I'm around. Fucking stupid dog.
We'll revisit it. I think you'll feel differently when you're faced with that. When it's on you, it's different. Like if you came home and found your pet dead, it's different than like you having to decide to kill them.
I'd worry about my kids. I'd worry about that's it. But I've only had him 2 years, and like he's in good shape, even though he's missing a leg. He's healthy and he's active, and like he'd make a really good like post-apocalyptic dog. Like that's what I like the most.
He's got the look.
Well, not only that, but like he's a blue lacy, and they're like really aggressive, like hunter tracker dogs. Like he kills like bunnies and shit.
Oh, so he's good at that.
Yeah, he's like a and that's missing a leg. They're like herding animals. They're specially bred like in the South and like Texas and stuff. And he was from Tennessee and he got hit by a truck, and they brought him to a shelter. They removed the leg and then they shipped him up here because they figured goofy people in Chicago have money for 3-legged dogs, and Southerners don't want to, they don't want the genetic impurity. So, so we adopted him, but he's a Southern blue lacy. So he's a fucking good tracker dog.
Yeah.
And I feel bad that he lives here, in Oak Forest with us. Like I really, whenever we get the chance, we'll take him out to Indiana and let him run around cornfield and stuff and hunt. Because that's kind of his demeanor.
I think that some situations are different. My boys now, I've had them since they were 5 weeks old. They weren't even old enough to be in my care. And I've raised these cats to be where they're at now. So when I lose them, I don't know. I might go nuts. I might have issues. My mom had issues when the dog was put down. She did. She lost, and even to this day, this was a year and a half ago that we put the dog down. And to this day, she cries about it. And
wow.
So it just depends, whatever that bond is that you have with your animals. It's different. And she says that she's never had that happen with other animals before. And she's sad about the cats, both of them. but not nearly as sad as like the dog. And so, I guess, I don't know, maybe that's fucked up. She's got favorites. I don't know. You just have different bonds with them.
Sure.
And, that's just, and so, and even comparing like my two cats, like the one I'm going to be sad about, like I'm going to be sad about when he's gone, but I'm going to be devastated when my one dies. So,
So I am, and I'm inching us towards this week's topic. We could do the UFO stuff at the end. That's fine. We're already so deep into cat talk. It'd be
yeah.
weird to fucking veer away. I am deathly allergic to cats.
Ooh,
Like,
that's good.
like terribly allergic. Like, almost to the point where like I'm like weird kid peanut allergy allergic to cats,
Wow.
and so I'm a little biased about them.
That's pretty
No,
rare to be that. I mean, a lot of people are allergic to them. Actually, most people are allergic to cats, but it's pretty rare when people are like deathly allergic.
well, not. I'm not. I don't have to carry an EpiPen with me in case I brush up
Bump
against
into
somebody
a
that has
cat.
cat hair on their hoodie. But no, like if so, I had I get like labored breathing, and I get my eyes swell shut, and I get real flush in the face and stuff, and real itchy. So when my best friend used to play professional hockey, and he had a cat named Bob, and when he went on the road, he actually was playing with the Cleveland Barons,
Okay.
and he asked me to watch his cat for him. So I lived on my own at the time, and well, I was living with a chick, but he gave me the cat, and Bob stayed with me, and I loved it. I had never had a cat before, never had a pet before. Um, he would like he wasn't around, and then he would be around, and he was affectionate, but then he'd go away, and it was
Yeah,
like having like a roommate. It was
they're
like,
not needy. Yeah.
no, I loved it. He was awesome, and I had about 3 days with him, and I was like, I'm gonna get a cat. Like, this is fucking great. And then I woke up like the third morning, and my eyes were swollen shut, and I couldn't breathe.
Oh.
And I was like, yeah, it was like everything just finally hit me. Like Bob had finally shut enough in the apartment for it to like, and it was fucking terrible. And I was like, get this thing out of here. And we got rid of it like that day, and we'd open up all the windows and vacuum everything and shit. And it's bad, like bad to where, I mean, I wouldn't. I'm not saying I wouldn't spend the night at a girl's place if she had cats, but like it definitely affected decisions that I made in my 20s. Like, you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah, that's
Like,
true.
trust me, girls with pets are annoying, like in general, because if they have the dog, then the dog's always bigger than you. The dog's gonna watch you fuck, and she's gonna have to get up early in the morning to like walk the dog, or she's not gonna go back to your place because she's got to get home for the dog, and whatever, right? The dog's gonna eat your shoes. The dog's gonna eat your glasses. It's this fucking dog that you have to deal with. Where cats, if they have cats at home, usually it's not that big of a deal because maybe the cat will like sit on the tall boy and like look at you while you're doing it, but that's it. But the problem is that I'll be like super allergic, and I'll have to run out of there, which I generally don't like to do. So
It's difficult to have a boner when your face is swelled up. That's
well, not when you're suffocating. See, that's the thing, is that if it just prolongs it, you know, just put on some NXS and
But that's true. So I've got some really great cat. My cats are because I've kind of talked. I think I've talked about it before. When I was young and first moved out, we had like the party house. So we had these two tiny fluff ball kittens. Everybody's seen my cats. They're big and fluffy. And so, of course they were adorable when they're kittens. And we had these huge parties and people were always over. And so like they're used to being around people, whereas like I have people that come over and they're shocked because both of my cats will actively be out, will actively want your attention sometimes. And they're like, I've never seen a house with two cats where both cats are out. And I'm like, yeah, they're not hiding. So I've got good cats, but on the downside of that, if you don't like cats or you're allergic or whatever, this is not the house for you to be at
right.
because they will want your attention. They're not crazy needy about it. Boo will just kind of check you out. He's a mama's boy. So usually like he'll check you out and then he'll come sit on my lap and stare at you to like try to assert some type of dominance. But he's not mean about it. But Spooky will like sit right beside you, like right up on you and just wait for you to pet him and stare at you until you do. So, but that's considered good cats. Like other people's cats, usually they run, they hide, they don't want anything to do with anybody. You don't see them, they're just, unless they want to come out, no, these ones are going to be up in your face. So it can be a hindrance sometimes, but I rescue. And so, like I mentioned previously, I can't have a dog here. I've had dogs here. If I have to rescue a dog, I'm going to, and I'm just going to have to separate them. But that's how I know my cats will kill a dog. But for the most part, I take on cats, and even more specific, I usually do kittens because Spooky, and both my cats are boys. Spooky, for some reason, makes a great surrogate mother to kittens. He loves them. Like, he will carry them around. He'd breastfeed them if he could. He really would. He loves them. So I had this one cat that I was rescuing. He was a little bit older. He was a kitten still, but he was older, kitten stage. And my boyfriend at the time was over, and we were having sex. And while we're having sex, so if you close the door on the cats, they will claw at the door until you let them in.
Yeah.
Now, you can either shut it out mentally and ignore it. Some dudes cannot do that. I can do that. I own them, so I'm used to shutting them out. But a lot of dudes can't do that. So we'll open the door and they won't bother you. Mine won't, but we had this one cat and we're having sex and the door is open and the cat comes in, gets on the bed and jumps on the dude's back in the middle of sex. It was great. It was hilarious.
Yeah, my dog likes to stick its nose where a dog shouldn't stick their nose sometimes when stuff's going on. I just let him. I'm not gonna fucking.
I'm gonna stop for this.
What am I gonna do? Like, it's already that train left the station. Like, these opportunities are fewer and farther between the older you get. It's like when that happens, nothing could stop that.
Oh God.
You know what I mean?
Your wife listens to this show. She's gonna kill you for mentioning that. I'm just kidding.
What, the dog?
Yeah.
Sniffing my butt. She knows she's there.
She's like, whatever.
She's not surprised.
Yeah, it was when the cat jumped on the back. I mean, that's the only instance I've had with an animal interrupting my sex life, so that's good.
Oh yeah.
But cats are cool. So you don't hate cats because you hate cats. You don't like them because you have allergies.
They cause me so much physical their mere presence causes me so much physical discomfort that it's hard not to be a little biased by them. And I like I said, I had those 3 days with Bob in my mid-20s, and I appreciated I get the vibe, I get the companionship, I get their deal. Right. So I can, and I wish that I could have that because I feel like that would be good. That would gel well with my personality.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, sometimes they're there, sometimes they're not. They do their own thing. They shit in a box. Like, all right, cool. One of the biggest pain in the ass about having a dog is having to walk it,
Yeah.
But like, so all that stuff is good. But I mean, just the allergies are just so bad that it just, I don't want to touch them. I don't want to hold them. If you have one, I'm not going over there unless I have to. It's just when it's that big of a thing. Like, I don't know if you have there's no other thing that exists in creation that I'm that repelled by outside of racism and shit. But you know what I mean? But there's no other thing that causes me that much discomfort where I can't stand to be around it, where it's that much of a negative influencer. You know what I mean? Cats are a big thing for me because they hurt me. They physically hurt me. You know what I mean?
I mean, I think that's natural. That's a natural response,
It's a natural bias. Yeah, of course.
Right. I mean, that makes sense. Whereas you got some people that just hate cats, and it's like, wow, that's rude, but they're so cute. I mean, that's
they are. And they're intelligent as fuck. You know what I mean? That's another thing I appreciate is that
cats are very interesting creatures. There's a lot about them that is very, there's a reason why they call lions the king of the jungle. They really are. They're very smart. Even house cats. I was doing some fact checking on cats, and because I'm going to try to throw as much as I can in here. But even physically, house cats, they can run up to 30 miles per hour. That's crazy. That's fast for these little tiny things. And then I found out that they're crazy good jumpers, which people usually know, but apparently the world record currently for a cat just straight jump in the air is 4 foot and 11 inches. And I also learned today that my cat, I think, beats that. I think he beats that record. One of my cats, when I'm standing, I can stand straight, and he will stand right in front of me, straight from the floor, and jump all the way up to my shoulder. And the first couple times he did it, it was horrifying because he'll just do it because he likes me to carry him around the house and let him smell things he can't normally smell. I don't know. It's weird. But cat people are weird. We're fucking weird. And so anyway, but he'll jump straight to my shoulder, I was like reading that, and I'm like, well, fuck, I'm 5'6". Like, do I need to like submit this somewhere and like get it checked out? I don't know, but they've got their ears are amazing. You watch a cat, their ears move around. Almost. They do like a whole 180. They're like little satellites, and they'll tune in to where they're listening to, and they can hear things and see things that we cannot see and hear. And so that is where this all kind of dabbles into the fun stuff.
Let's get into it. What you got?
So cats are everybody knows they worship them in Egypt. They thought that cats were good luck. And so therefore they treated them like royalty because they thought the luck would be more. But they treated them better than some of the people there. Not everybody in Egypt was mummified, but the cats always were.
So let me ask you about that real quick. Is that like desert Egypt, or is that Egypt when it was more of a jungle? There was more flora and stuff.
That's a really good question. I don't know the answer to that.
Because it doesn't seem like an environment where cats would naturally like thrive. If you think of Egypt in like as a desert kingdom, but we know that Egypt wasn't always like that. You know what I mean?
Well, yes and no, because the cats that they depict most of the time, well, especially we know they have a giant statue of it, is the Sphinx, which they're either extremely short-haired or hairless altogether. So they would do well in a desert environment because they don't have all the fur.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying? So, they could definitely be in that area. I don't know the answer to that question. That's a good question. I didn't think to look that up. But that's a good one.
Well, that's good homework for our listeners. Why don't you guys look it up and then tweet us and tell us what's up?
Tweet us and tell us the answer as when were cats worshipped in Egypt. But they are really interesting. When I went to, in a couple of places I've gone to, but I went to the Crescent Hotel in Eureka Springs, Arkansas, which has been a kind of a big paranormal event for me. But when you go there, we went there, and when you walk in, this place has been on all kinds of ghost shows, and it's famously haunted. And so you walk in, and immediately there's a gift shop right there full of all this ghost stuff. And there's like a table sitting there, and I look on the table, and there's a cat, a black cat with big old, long hair. And at first I didn't know if it was real or not because it didn't react at all that I was there. So I walked up to it and I started petting it, and it kind of moved, and I was like, oh, okay, it's real. But that wasn't the only cat. We saw more cats. There's cats all over that hotel. And they even allegedly have a ghost cat there. And the reason why they have so many cats is because it's wildly believed that cats keep away negative energy. So the more cats you have, the more energy you keep away. And there's like a ton of like different superstitions and stuff. Like some people think that because cats will like pet themselves on you, they'll rub themselves against you, and they think that when they're doing that, it's kind of like more like a cleansing ritual. They're like taking care of you with their energy. And I've heard psychics and stuff say that cats have really big auras, like big enough to cover, like if you're standing next to one, a couple of people and things like that. So it's a really interesting concept.
I can see that kind of coming about because they are predators.
Okay.
So they keep away rodents, they keep away pests, and maybe that is seen as doing a benefit for the family. You know what I mean?
It could be.
Like, especially when, you're talking about a couple hundred years ago when healthcare was shit and fucking viruses ran rampant, much like today. But yeah, having a cat around was actually like, it would help you out. You didn't have to worry about rats nibbling on babies in the middle of the night and shit.
Yeah. Yeah. Cats are super useful for things like that. Or like, farmers keep them to keep, pests and rodents out of their crop and things like that. So, Yeah, they can definitely be useful. Now, when it comes to like the supernatural, so like the thing is that I haven't gotten to talk about this yet on the show because I didn't know for sure at first, but now I know for sure. My house is haunted right now.
And do you think so? When you say right now, you think that's a recent development, like
Yeah.
it wasn't before, and now, oh,
Yes.
okay,
Um, I've done this enough. I've been, around different situations enough to where, I think I'm an expert for the most part. And so it
okay,
started with this book. I've got this huge entertainment center. You might have seen it with my regular TV. And so it's like in a square box shape, and the TV sits in like the center box, and then there's like boxes on the sides, and then like around the bottom where you can put, they're just like cutout boxes where you can put like storage bins or whatever. One of those boxes on the side I keep as like a mini bookshelf. I have a bigger bookshelf in my bedroom, but then I've got the smaller one in the living room for books I'm reading right now. And this book I just bought, it's specifically a book about tarot. Well, it keeps falling off the shelf. And, the first couple of times it happened, I'm just like, well, I've got wood floors, the entertainment center's wood, maybe it's the vibration, somebody jumping around, it moves the book, whatever. But it keeps happening. And then like I had an instance one night where I was in my kitchen and I felt something towards like the back of my apartment. I live in an apartment, towards my bedroom, and it was extremely overwhelming, but I just, and it is, everybody's I talk a lot of shit all the time with a lot of people and say how ghosts don't scare me and whatever, but when you feel it, it's a different thing. And it is alarming the first time you kind of have that feeling go over you. And so, and every time it never gets easier. So, I have this weird feeling wash over me, and then I gather myself together and I'm like, nope, nope. Because that's, to me, I think if you're going to have a haunting, you're going to have a ghost. That's what they want. They want to be able to overpower your energy. And then you just have to be like, no, that's not happening. You have to not be afraid. So I was like, nope. And then it stopped. Well, so like a couple days ago, and this is what solidified it for me. We are sitting in, it's me and my daughter and my two cats are in the living room, and both cats are dead asleep. And me and my kid are watching something on TV, and my bedroom door opened, completely open from being shut.
mm.
And I look over and both cats are dead asleep. My daughter's there. I was like, oh. Okay. So it's weird. It's whatever it is, it's in my bedroom. And it happened today. I've been doing some deep cleaning while I've been in quarantine, and I reached under my bed, and I was, because I was like trying to put these storage bins under my bed, and I couldn't get the one in, and I'm like, what is going on? So I reached under my bed. I felt something fuzzy like an animal. Immediately pulled my hand out, freaked out. I'm like, is it one of the cats? I look up, both cats are on top of the bed, and I'm like, what the fuck's under there? So I get on the floor and look underneath it, and there's nothing there. And I pushed the bin in, and it was fine. So I've never had anything like that. I've never like physically touched something like that before.
Right. Well, how would you? Like,
Right.
okay, let's take this one at a time. So like
Yes.
under the like with the thing with under the bed,
Yes.
what has the ability to manifest itself physically like that?
I have no idea. I've
Okay.
never
I
experienced.
would look into that because yes, that's a very unique thing.
It was wild.
And
Yeah. It was weird.
right. And then my other question would be, weren't you trying to do stuff on your birthday or something, or right, because you were gonna have a big birthday party?
Okay.
Was it your birthday or was your Halloween party? Yeah.
Yeah. I did
Was it before then or did it start after that?
started after that.
Okay, so do you think that something happened there? Is there, I mean, you know what you got up to those nights. I mean, do you think that could have been the tipping point?
I don't think so. I don't normally try to like, I don't try to like conjure anything or make contact with anything unless I'm out and about somewhere specific.
Okay. Do you think something could have followed you home?
I think that that's a really good possibility.
Yeah.
And so I just have to figure out why, where. Now, Anne and I did go down to the Fudge Road area recently, which is allegedly haunted as fuck. I don't know. We didn't do anything there though. We, uh, me and Anne did a lot of stuff on the 21st, but this was happening before that. So
Right.
I'm trying to like kind of remember, when things, because it's kind of one of those things where it's like hindsight. Like I said, the book repeatedly falling off the shelf, and I've had the book. I thought about maybe it was the book. I bought the book used, but I've had it for quite a while. I mean, a couple months.
Well, you were telling me about the flies, and that went
Yes.
back to that was like Halloween.
Yeah.
That was like
Yeah.
post Halloween party.
What it was just right after the Halloween party. The flies are now gone. Yes, the viewers don't know about this, but I have this crazy fly infestation, an insane fly infestation, and I don't. There was no reason for it. And now, granted, I live in an apartment, but I had no reason to have as many flies.
Yeah,
For this time
from what you were telling me, it legitimately sounded like it was an issue with your upstairs neighbor.
Yes.
Or someone down the hall or something where it had gotten in the
In the
drywall
building, right? Somewhere in the building,
yeah,
not specifically my building. I have OCD, so like,
right.
I can't things. I hoard, but I'm not a dirty hoarder. Like that's
No,
different.
but
But yeah,
I feel like that's when you're trying to reverse engineer an explanation. I feel like that's something like that kind of you have to pay attention to, because the
right,
timing with that, granted, I mean, you can make explanations one way or the other. You could say that was, it was a result of someone else's Halloween party, and that's why someone else had made a fucking mess and left it there, and you were dealing with
right.
flies
Who
from
knows?
that.
Right, could have been something
But
biological. But the
or it could have.
interesting thing about the flies, because they don't know this part, is that some people might, because I took a picture and showed people, but I don't think they connected the dots. So I did this in October. I did this karmic return spell, which is like a karmic justice. So it's just basically giving people that deserve their karma, just making sure it happens for them quickly. So while I was doing the spell, it's a candle spell. You have to burn out a candle completely. And while I'm doing it, this was before I had a fly issue. A lone fly flew into my flame and ultimately into my candle. I have a picture of it, and into my candle, and it burned itself to death. And it kind of, it kind of freaked me out. I'm like, what was this? Was this a sacrifice? Did the fly, sacrifice itself for my ritual? Or is this a bad omen? Which one? And I'm like reading about flies and like different things that, different demons and things like that are attached
Oh
to
yeah,
flies and
Exorcist too.
right, exactly. I'm just kind of doing my research, and I couldn't really, it could be a good thing, it could be a bad thing. But then after that, all of a sudden I have this crazy fly infestation.
Right.
And it's gone now.
Well,
It's gone. It's not here anymore.
yeah, but now there's something under the bed.
There's something under the bed, right?
Going to like, I think, but what's interesting about this is how are your cats responding? Because you do have two cats.
That's what I was getting at. Yeah.
Okay.
That's how this is connected, right? So
Right.
they haven't really reacted at all. Now, my one cat he's got really bad anxiety, so he's been a little more high strung than usual. But that could be explained because he's got anxiety. But other than that, I mean, I haven't like really catch them looking at things or seeming. I mean, cats do though. They look at, they'll just stare off into space, and you're like, are you what? Do you see something, or just a cat? But I've been looking out for it. Now, then again, I just noticed this. Like I said, I just now came to terms with what is going on, probably within the last week. So it's been interesting. So I'm going to continue to kind of monitor the situation, and I've already decided, if whatever this is if it's not going to cause any issues, it can stay. I'm not afraid of it being here. That's not the problem. But if it starts causing problems here, it can't stay here. I'm not having that shit. That's not tolerated in my house. So
Right.
but it's been interesting. I don't know how to like document it now, because it's like, of course, the fucking girl, the fucking weirdo moth lady with the damn weekly weird podcast. Oh yeah, she's got a haunted house. Blah blah blah. I get it. I get how it sounds.
No, I mean, I would just, from the engineer's perspective, like you document everything, you keep a log, Write everything down, take pictures, and that way you can compare stuff later. If there was one thing that I wish I did more when I was younger, was I wish I wrote more shit down.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's always my advice to everybody is document occurrences, document behavior, because that way if you record things, you can do trend analysis and you can see that, like, oh wow, every Sunday this happens, or oh wow, at this time of night this happens. And you might not make those connections right now, but given some time for the data to build, and patterns might start to emerge, and you might be able to connect the dots a little bit. Or it'll be completely random and you realize that it's completely random and just whatever, you
Right.
know.
Right. Well, and right. And so, and I get it. I live in an apartment. We get weird noises and stuff. I got people that live above me, I get noises and stuff all the time. Weird stuff can happen, but like I said, when the open door or when the closed door completely opened by itself, which it's not one of those doors anyway that like easily, like you just kind of need to push on it and it just opens. Like it's a pretty, solid door, and it just opened and everybody's in the living room. So I heard it, and then I looked at it and I was like, wow. But it all seems to be happening in my bedroom specifically, is where, except for the book in the living room. So I don't know if that's just maybe
That's where the magic happens. So going back to that book, I mean, that in and of itself, I don't feel is that, I mean, I don't know, is it like a handwritten fucking tarot card on the flesh of human being
No,
tarot
it's not.
card?
It's a very simple. So like like I don't think the book itself was related. So my thought process originally is that like I've got all these books sitting upright with bookends, so they stay in place. But this book sits on top, which is why I thought, maybe it falls off, because that's where I keep my tarot cards. I keep my decks there, and then I keep like 4 or 5 books. I had bought in this book. I'm like, well, I want to read this, but I don't want to pull out any of the other books I'm reading right now, so I'm just going to set it on top. So I'm like, okay, so it could easily fall, um, but then it
Do you
kept
think,
happening.
have you been doing many tarot readings? Do you think maybe that's what's trying to tell you, is to use that, and that'll,
That's a really
you know
good
what I
question.
mean?
I have not been doing many tarot readings, so
Well, duh. The
maybe I should
fucking
do a tarot
tarot
reading on it.
the tarot book keeps levitating towards you, and you never thought to fucking
It wants to be
do,
read.
yeah.
And then now I've like done myself a disservice. I'm sure, I don't know if you saw my picture that I posted on Twitter of my half of a Santa Claus in my closet.
No.
Yeah, yeah. So you have to go look at it. I've got this life-size Santa Claus, and it was my grandma's. It's the only thing I have of my grandma's, and he used to have legs, but the legs broke and fell off, and I only have the upper part of his body. So I'm gonna make a chimney for him that he can sit in. But he's life size. He's huge. And so I've been, like I said, I've been doing this.
Oh Jesus, that's nightmare fuel.
Yes. And so where my bed is, I mean, if you lay in the bed, you look in the closet, there's Santa. Like you can see it.
Oh my
So
gosh.
I mean, I can close the door, if I want to, but I'm too lazy, so I never do. And yeah, there's Santa. So now I've like done this, and like now I'm like, I look over and I'm like, oh, I had to turn him away a little bit so he wasn't like looking at me. At first, his head was off of his body, and it looked even worse. So
That's a pretty sweet Rick and Morty shirt.
hanging up in my closet, my nobody exists for a reason, or whatever it is. I haven't watched Rick and
You got
Morty.
lots of you got hangers you're not even using yet.
Oh, that's because laundry has been being done. You should see. You don't even see the other side of that closet.
Yeah.
Those are just my t-shirts.
So did you have any cat cryptids that you want to talk? I mean, I don't want to pull you off
Yes.
this, so you're
No, that's fine. That's fine. That's a good no, that's a good question. Yeah, we were kind of talking about, bringing on some cat cryptids. So I'm, looking at them all, and there's a lot. That's one thing, is that, not every culture has their own thing, for the most part. We've got which we've talked about before, we've got the Wendigo, right? But like Africa doesn't have a Wendigo, they have something else. It's the same thing, but they have something else. Well, maybe not quite the same thing, because they don't really have cold weather, but pretty much the same thing, just called something else. Big cats are like Bigfoot. They're universal, they're everywhere. They seem to happen a lot in like in the UK. So what happens in the case of cryptid cats is that there are different, let me pull up my notes. There are different kinds. Most of the time, they kind of refer to these things as like phantom cats because usually you'll see a big black cat, like a panther type cat, in an
Mm,
area that it shouldn't be in.
right.
And, that's the most common. I'm not going to get into any specific names or anything like that because there's just so goddamn it. I mean, there really is. Are they all the same thing? Probably. When you look at like the UK cats, I would say they're all probably the same thing. They're all black, big cats. And there's videos and there's pictures galore. I mean, there's no shortage. And these aren't like blob squatches. Like these aren't like pictures of something dark in the woods somewhere. Like these are fucking cats, like big cats.
Right. And what's interesting about those is that even if they're not supernatural, I think it just shows that like we don't have an exact bead on what's going on with the wildlife in our areas.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Because
Yes.
yeah, you're right. It's they're cryptids in the sense that they spot these black cats, either they're mountain lions or they're panthers or something, in areas where they're not
They're not
necessarily
typical.
known to be
Right.
indigenous to.
Right.
Which either, some people say, oh, that must make they're supernatural, but I would say I think we should re-examine what we consider is indigenous to what,
Yes.
you know.
So yeah, here in Dayton, while I was doing this cat research, I saw that in 2010 there was a lot of reports of these like phantom cats in the area, and they've been like in my suburb neighborhood even recently. And so which I thought that was really bizarre. I know that like we have bobcat sightings here and stuff like that, and like I said, we live in it's very much the suburban city. Now if you walk out my front door, we have like a biking trail right there, right where my apartment is. There's a biking trail, so I mean there could be wildlife. Bobcats do live here, and it could be that people see these bobcats, they've never seen one before, and they're like, oh shit, that's crazy, or whatever. But what had happened was we were having these sightings pop up everywhere in 2010, and then in Ohio, a very significant event happened in 2011 with a guy named Terry Thompson, who owned all of these big exotic cats. I think there was like 70 of them. There was a lot, and
Hmm.
he ended up releasing all of them and killed himself.
I wondered if that's, I thought that was a potential explanation, is that you have like, especially now that the Tiger King shit's so popular or
You got
whatever,
people with
and
exotic pets.
there's more light being shown on that, because
Yeah,
we have the same thing in Illinois, where we have a bunch of in the past 20 years we've had tons of Black Panther sightings,
right.
and explanations have ranged from everything with like, oh, it's a cougar, which are kind of not super indigenous to the area, but at least not like panthers, that just
Sure.
there's some genetic anomaly creating them to be jet black.
Right.
Or is it panthers, and is it supernatural, or is it just some idiot had fucking panthers and let them loose?
Or maybe right, or maybe a different species entirely that we just haven't scientifically named yet. I mean, that's a very good possibility. But a lot of people do think this. But like I was saying before, it's interesting that like there's so much picture and video evidence of these things. It's obviously happening, right?
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
yeah.
there's
And
so much
tracks and
evidence.
stuff too.
What's that?
And tracks and stuff too. Like they
Right.
leave
I
lots of
mean,
physical evidence behind.
right. And so it's like there's no question about whether or not this is going on. It's just a matter of what exactly are they, just exotic species we already know about that are pets that are loose? Is it a supernatural thing? Is it a new species? Now, when you look at all of the different cats, there's like phantom, the phantom cats are typically the Black Panther type cats, and those are probably the most common, but there are like different types of lions. Like I know there's a lion in Africa, or no, not in Africa. There's like American lions that we allegedly have here. But again, misplaced animals, that's definitely a possibility. And there are different variants of these cryptid cat species. One that is fun, it's kind of fun, that I really like to look at, I'd like to look into, is the Maltese tiger. Have you heard of these?
No.
They're blue.
Wow.
They're blue with black stripes. And that sounds crazy, except they're there's about a 95% chance that they're real. So they're sighted mostly in like in around China. They're most likely they are southern Chinese tigers, which are critically endangered. Like they're probably, I mean, they're probably not going to exist much longer. But what they have found and what they find, especially with other cats, is that they could have a specific genetic variant that could give them this blue coloring. Now, when you think of blue, it's like when people talk about their blue dogs or even cats. There's there's a type of cat that appears blue. Now they're gray, but they're so gray that they're blue. But those likely, I mean, they probably are real. I know we haven't had any sightings of them in a while, but that's most likely due to the fact that they are so critically endangered anyway, that the ones with that genetic variant they're probably gone by now. So that particular type is probably extinct. But I thought that was cool. It was a nice, an interesting, take on it, especially when we're talking about, black cats all the time and it's something different.
Well, I have a cool story that when we were talking about this show idea, my mind immediately went to.
Okay.
Um, so in when I don't know how familiar you are with the Rambo movies, but the last Rambo movie came out a couple years ago,
Okay.
and it has Rambo going up against a Mexican cartel
Okay.
that like kidnaps this girl that he raised as his daughter.
Uh-huh.
But the original script had him hunting a big cat that was
Oh.
like an alien or something. I don't know. They never, because the movie never got made, but it was supposed to be called Rambo 5: The Savage Hunt.
I
And
would love to
Rambo,
watch that.
yeah, I know. That's why like it totally was like in my mind
That sounds badass as
because
hell. I'd love to see
yeah.
John Rambo fucking go against an alien. Well, so is it so that I kind of wanted to touch on that too. Is it actually an alien cat? Because they refer to these big cats most of the time as alien cats. They actually call them ABCs, alien black cats. Because not because they're extraterrestrial, but because they're most likely panthers misplaced where they shouldn't be.
Well, so that's something that I mean, I didn't read the script, or the movie never got made, so
Yeah.
I don't know exactly what
What they
was going to
meant by
be revealed.
alien. Yeah.
I had read one article where it was a legitimate outer space alien, another one that it was genetically engineered or something.
Oh, so just definitely
I don't,
beyond a normal.
yeah, and it was also supposed to be like there was one report that he was going to be like hunting it in the Arctic, which is like it's a black fucking panther and he's hunting it in the snow like that. I don't know. It should seem
I
like
mean, I
that
guess they
should.
could have made it white. I don't
Hopefully,
know.
it's not a long movie at that point. Like I don't want to see 2.5 hours of that. Maybe 75 minutes.
Yeah.
But so that was one. But like I said, the movie never got made. Like,
Yeah.
but that was Sylvester Stallone being, yeah, I think the next one I'm gonna hunt a big cat, and people were kind of like, what? And they never ended up making it, but that would have been interesting. And then while we're on the subject of cat movies, the movie Cats, which was for a while it was the last thing that I saw in the theater before COVID happened.
Yeah.
I
You
saw it
you
like in
advocate for
January
this
of.
movie. You like this movie.
I love this movie. I my mom took me to the theater a lot growing up, and Cats was like this running joke between us because she took me to see it when I was probably like, I don't know, 12. And I was like, what the fuck? I hated it. It was like they sang the entire time. I wasn't used to musicals like that. I'm used to like a Disney musical where like, Ariel talks for a little bit and then they sing Under the Sea and then they talk for a little bit and then they sing Kiss the Girl.
Right.
And it was like, and then you go to see like some of these like theater productions and they're singing the entire time and you're just like, what the fuck? Like, I don't know what's going on. Like, I can't follow it. And so I went and saw Cats, hated it as a kid. So whenever she would take me to the theater after that, I'd always be like, is this going to be like Cats? Is this going to be like Cats? And then when I saw that they were making the movie Cats, it looked just fucking bananas enough. Like, because they look like surreal and like creepy.
Yeah, they look strange.
And yeah, and I was like, okay, I'm in. And my mom and myself and my son went to go see it probably like mid to late January. And It was bizarre and it was terrifying and it was awesome. And then when we were in the full swing of like COVID this summer and it came out on VOD, I had to buy it. So I've probably made the kids watch it 2-3 times this year. Well, in 2020, you know, we would bust it out because then my daughter hadn't seen it. So when I had my daughter for the weekend, I'm like, we're gonna watch Cats, and yeah, I like it.
Is there
It's
singing
very
in the movie?
yes, but they talk in between as well.
Sure.
So it's a little bit easier to follow what's going on, but it also makes you realize that there's not a lot going on in it. It's not good, but it's just so bizarre to see these people in these cat suits.
They're really ugly. Yeah, they're.
Yeah.
I don't like the way they look.
Well, and then it's weird, like how like sometimes they act cat-like and like they move their heads around and stuff. If you haven't seen it, it's worth.
I've never seen it. No.
Oh, it's worth checking out. It's
Maybe I
worth
will. You're the only person that's told me to watch this, but
Yes. Oh no. Have people don't. I mean, if you want to sit there and like watch it, like you can as well. But I think it definitely benefits from like a 6-pack, a couple blunts, and like your buddies over. Like it's a you could there's definitely parts you can talk through and like get up and leave and come back and be like, what did I miss? And everyone is just gonna be like, I don't know. I don't know what the fuck is happening here. This is bizarre. Rebel Wilson is eating mice. Now there's fucking cockroaches doing choreographed dances and it's all over the place. And Taylor Swift shows up at one point and it's
just all okay.
it's all over the place. It's a beautiful disaster and it costs a lot of money and it's shot really weird and the actors are all trying very hard to pretend to be singing cats and it's
okay, all right,
it's fucking bananas.
okay.
But and supposedly this is a little bit
it's not bananas, Pat, it's the cat's meow.
Moving right along, supposedly there was a cut where they did all the special effects for the movie because it's one of those things where the people are in like green screen suits,
Yeah,
and you know they kind of did some work on them.
sure.
There's a butthole cut where I guess when the original trailer dropped, people noticed that there was buttholes on the cats and we're like, what the fuck? Like, did someone actually have to go and like some like graphic designer or like special effects artist had to put buttholes on all the cats? And then after it was spotted in the trailer and the internet picked up on it, they freaked out. And then someone had to go back and remove the buttholes from the movie because, movies nowadays they're not on film anymore, especially a fucking movie like this.
Yeah.
So they don't need to, I don't know if you remember as a kid, but you would go to the movie theater like on Wednesday or Tuesday and there would be like reels and reels of film that just got delivered.
Oh yeah.
That would have the 35 millimeter screening prints for all the movies that were coming out that following Friday, and the theater would have to run every print. My sister used to work at a movie theater and she would tell me about it. And so you would get the movie early and your friends could come watch and we're just going to test the print and make sure that it's not damaged. Right. And they would do this like Wednesday nights. Well, now you just get a link emailed to you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then you download it.
It's digital.
Yeah. It's
I
like
worked at a movie theater for 5 years. So
okay, so too. Yeah. All right. So like supposedly like with cats, like they were like that fucking week. Like the movie was dropping on Friday. And like as of like Monday into Tuesday, there's still graphic designers or digital artists going through frame by frame and removing the buttholes from the cats.
I made that observation with the Lion King remake was that, they've got these male lions that had no testicles on these realistic lions. And it's like, that's not how that works. I mean, and I understand, right? It's a kid's movie, but it is just one of those things. I mean, if you're a cat person at all, at just period, that you have to look at their buttholes a lot. I guess.
Right.
I guess maybe that's what you go to the movies for, to escape reality.
Well, that makes sense because I wondered why they would bother to put the buttholes on cats in the first place. But I guess you're letting us, as I guess most cat owners know. I'm not a cat owner, so I would have no fucking idea.
Yeah, we see their buttholes a lot. Ann and I, well, maybe not Ann and I. Maybe I was having a conversation with Ann, and she was just listening to me ramble. But I was kind of talking about how weird it was, how like animals don't have. They don't have butt cracks like we do. They don't have butt cheeks. So it's like if they didn't have like the fur and stuff, they just sit down and their butthole is directly touching whatever surface they're on.
Yeah, I wonder that with my dog because I see him take shits and then I'm like, but he doesn't wipe.
Right. He doesn't have to
And
wipe or
then he just
anything.
comes in the house and like sits on the couch.
Right. And it's
And
like,
I'm like, yeah.
that's your whole butthole. Your butthole's just sitting right on my couch. That's why you got a lot of, in a cat house, you clean a lot of surfaces. Now, my cats they don't get on the counters. They really don't get on the tables or anything. I mean, they're pretty good, but most cats do. And everybody says you really can't train a cat. I mean, you can. It's a lot of patience. But for the most part, they're going to do what they want to do. But you still gotta, you gotta clean up because they might have put their buttholes right on your on your countertop that you're preparing your sandwich on. It's one
Well,
of
that's
those
no
things.
bueno.
But it is weird, right? Why do we have like a safe covering for our buttholes, but other animals don't? Some
Because
species of primates do, but nobody.
we were made in God's image. I don't know. Because we are the favored
That's what,
being on this
exactly.
planet.
We get to keep our buttholes covered. We're worthy. It's just
To
so
give us
strange.
padding from riding horses, or I don't know. Honestly, it's probably
But some primates do have big. The baboon's got a big old butt.
okay. So someone told me once that like the reason that you grow pubes is because it's a way to like protect your genitals, right?
Yeah,
So that if you want to talk about like evolutionary like
for bacteria
you
and
know
things like that,
r-
right?
right, exactly. So that's why it's there. So you could say that your butthole is the same or your butt cheeks are the same thing, is that it's a way to like offer padding between yourself and your butt, because if you think about it, if you're sitting down um and like you don't have that padding, then your butthole's like directly on the dirt or whatever on the ground, and like ants are gonna get in or whatever. So it's like it would
Looking
make
at
sense that
tunnel.
like it would be beneficial to have this kind of buffer zone. You know what I mean?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I guess the other animals have fur, but like people have hairy buttholes too. I mean, that's a thing. So it's like, what came first, the hair or the crack?
I don't know. Maybe
I'm genuinely curious. I don't know. It's just one of my random.
maybe it's like genetic selection. Like the cave women that can make their asses clap got bred more, and they got passed on. So that was the trait that was selected.
It could be. I don't. This is the stuff I sit around and I think about, the real deep, heavy hitting thoughts. That's my.
Sure.
That's what I do.
But before we sign off for the week, can we
Yes.
talk about a couple other things that you should probably be sitting around and thinking about?
Yes.
Um,
Yes. Please
yes.
do.
So I lied. I lied on the Twitter feed when I said we were going to talk about UFOs first, and then alien, and then cats. We got to the cat talk first, but the lesser story I feel like from this week is the UFO that was spotted over the Hawaiian island of Oahu.
Yes.
Have you seen that video?
I haven't. Well, maybe I did see the video.
The video is very unimpressive. It looks like, and in fact, one of the explanations, spoiler alert, one of the explanations that the UFO community came up with is that it's an LED kite.
Okay.
And honestly, the vibrant blue/purple looks to me like I haven't seen all the UFO footage there is to see, but I've seen a decent amount. And it definitely seems, that explanation seems somewhat
Okay. So
plausible.
I have not seen that video yet. I can tell you that.
Okay.
But
But
I
what's
did read
interesting,
about it earlier.
yeah, what's interesting about the story in general is just the fact that there's multiple witnesses, it involves the police,
Yeah.
and it involves the FAA, because the police went so far as to contact the FAA to see if there was a downed plane in the area, because that's what they were convinced they were seeing
Yes.
when this UFO went into the ocean.
Right.
So it's something that definitely happened. There's no debate about whether or not this phenomenon occurred. What it actually was, we can debate. Nobody knows for sure. So by very definition alone, it's 100% a UFO. Whether or not it was craft under intelligent control, or it was some kind of, like they're saying, LED kite, which I don't know enough about kites to really debate that one too much. But that's just
Yeah.
from last week, so that's fairly recent. It's kind of a big story right now.
Yeah, I'd have to see that video to tell you if I think it's a kite or not. But I was reading about it because it is such a big event. But that is one story. This other one's kind of been the other one we're going to talk about. I think we just missed the mark on last week, but that's fine. I think what you're getting at next. Go ahead though.
All right, so moving right along from the Hawaiian UFO story. We'll just click the X on that one.
I'm sorry. I guess I assumed
No,
you were done with
no.
it.
We've already spent like 95 minutes talking about cats. Why the fuck would we talk about UFO spotted in Hawaii?
I just don't know anything about it enough to like come up with any kind of speculation, you know? I mean,
Improv, bitch. You think I know anything about cats? I talked about Rambo at the end. I don't fucking. That's how I brought that one home. But anyway, no. This is the big story.
yeah, I'm excited about this one. There you go. That's my excuse. I want to get to this because I'm excited about it.
Right. So when President Trump signed the COVID-19 relief and government funding bill, it included a not a law,
no,
but a provision,
a request
for the Director of National Intelligence, in consultation with the Secretary of Defense and the heads of other such agencies, to submit a report within 180 days of the date of the enactment of the Act to the Congressional Intelligence and Armed Services Committee on identified aerial phenomenon. So basically what they're giving them more money, right? Which is what, I mean,
right.
Obviously there's a lot of shit in that bill,
yeah,
but like
it's big. Yeah.
Right. What this was like kind of a sub thing that was tacked on was that they want a report that must address observed airborne objects that have not been identified and should include a detailed analysis of unidentified phenomenon data collected by A, geospatial intelligence, B, signals intelligence, C, human intelligence, and D, measurement and signals intelligence. And the report must also contain a detailed analysis of data of the FBI, which was derived from investigations of intrusions of identified aerial phenomenon data over restricted United States airspace, and an assessment of whether or not this unidentified aerial phenomena activity may be attributed to one or more foreign adversaries.
Oh.
Right. So what's interesting to me about that, and here's not to be a wet blanket, but they don't have to do that. And what they come up with doesn't have to be what you think it's going to be.
Correct.
Right?
Yes.
This is a request, and it could be a bunch of redacted files. And I think that what's interesting about this is that it's still framing the UFO phenomenon in the context of national security and also intrusions by foreign adversaries, kind of once again going back to like a secret space program, right? That China or Russia could have access to this technology and is using it to do surveillance on us and invade our airspace.
Could be. I didn't read it that way. I've read it more of a we need to get these out there, because I don't know if you've paid much attention to what China and Russia are doing right now with all of their space exploration and stuff like that, but they're doing a lot. And I don't really have enough time to, or research under my belt to really cover it. But they are doing a lot right now. And I think that this was more of an open invitation. I can't speak right now. To invite those countries to work with us on what they're doing, and kind of a truce on everything else to kind of compile what we have together. Because, and I don't mean it to be alarming or to embellish, but I think that they think that there really might be some type of threat here as far as an outer space visitor goes. For some reason, I think that they do, that they feel that way.
I don't get that vibe. I think that for a long time we have been using the UFO phenomenon as a cover story for our advanced aircraft research. And maybe some of that is attributed back to reverse engineered technology that we recovered from something, right?
Sure. Okay.
But I think that we're at a point now where there's a secret space race going on. and
There could be.
our government is trying to bring it into the limelight because we need the United States to get behind it. We need the people and the taxpayers to know that, look, Russians are trying to colonize the fucking moon. Like,
Yeah.
look, China already has, these massive aircrafts, or look, we're trying to go off world because an asteroid's going to hit us in 30 years. You know what I mean? Something like that. So, like, I feel like this is definitely all leading towards something, and it has its disclosure of some kind. And maybe the Senate and maybe these people that are drafting these bills are doing it because they know what the answer is. They're just finding ways to publicly ask the questions so that it seems all organic and there's not this band-aid ripped off that where we say, hey, look, we've been lying to you for all this time. This is what's going on, right? They're trying to do a slow leak of information as opposed to a data dump, which might shock the shit out of people. And,
Right. Which is, something that I know I've talked about a lot. We've talked about a lot on the show. And other people have discussed in the community that, they're going to just kind of slowly roll these things out.
right.
But, what I found most interesting, which I think is going to be overlooked a lot, is that it is the specific term of the what is it? The UAPs now is what they're not UFOs anymore.
Yeah, I had that flag too that I wanted to talk about.
Right.
But
So because they're calling them that now, so that means they only have to release information on that. They don't have to release it on UFOs. And up until probably I'd say about 3 years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, they were using the term UFO and now they're not. And so it's like, well, that's interesting. I mean, the term itself, the fact that they changed it, it's kind of weird. But whatever, maybe they wanted to modernize it. But again, maybe it's because they could then release all the files or not release all the files on the UFOs. Maybe going forward, they're deciding to try to be honest with us. And I don't know why, but I think it's because I think something happened. This is my own speculation. I think something happened. I think we broke a rule. I think we had a treaty with somebody that wasn't from here. I mean, that wasn't from Earth. And I think we broke a rule somewhere, or we're intending on breaking a rule, and we know that we can get in trouble for that. And I think we're prepping for that, for the backlash.
I think that the UAP thing is a PR move. As someone that used to work in public relations themselves, I think that it's all about branding. And the reason they came up with an alternative monkeyer moniker, I'm sorry, you can tell I learned that word through reading because I mispronounced it, which is nothing to be ashamed of because all it does is show that I read.
Exactly. Good for you, Pat. I'm proud of you.
Yeah, so I think that the UFO moniker had a lot of fucking baggage with it.
I agree.
When you say UFO, it brings a lot of things to mind.
Sure.
And those things aren't necessarily positive things, they're negative things. Okay. So step one is to create a different fucking acronym. That way, when we talk about this shit moving forward, we're not drudging up decades worth of fucking goofy sci-fi drive-in movie bullshit, right? We're not talking about UFOs, we're talking about UAPs. Right. All right. It's same thing, but it's different. Why would you come up with a different name? The government used UFOs before in previous documents. It's not like they're allergic to the acronym. It's a conscious effort to rebrand the phenomenon because they're trying to reframe it. You don't rebrand a product unless you're trying to change its image.
Because they're trying to make it easier for us to swallow. I mean, why?
No, I think it's just because this is what I think. I think that they let the UFO mythology kind of propagate itself because there's nothing, because it was a disinformation campaign, right? It was, what are these lights in the sky? Oh, maybe it's flying saucers, or maybe it's this, or maybe it's that. And it with a built-in shame technique. If you see this shit, keep your mouth shut, or else everyone's going to think you're fucking nuts. We're going to tell people you saw aliens. No, I'm not saying I saw aliens. I'm saying I saw advanced aircraft in our airspace, right? Like, let's talk about brass tacks. It has nothing to do about UFOs and little green men. It can just have to do with simply aircraft more advanced than what the fucking average Joe is led to believe that we have at our disposal. This stuff exists and it invades our airspace. Now, it's just as what's more damaging, to be honest and say, okay, those crafts are real and they belong to China because they're more advanced than us, or to say, what did you think you saw? You think you saw a flying saucer? What, with aliens in it? All right, buddy, whatever. UFOs over here, right?
Okay.
It's kind of like a disinformation campaign. And I can see now that they're going to have to pull the Band-Aid off that disinformation campaign, because maybe it was a treaty. When you talk about a treaty being broken or going to be broken and they're preparing us for the backlash, maybe it's not a treaty between us and the Pleiades. Maybe it's a treaty between us and the fucking Germans.
It
Maybe
could
it's a
be.
treaty between us and the fucking Chinese. And that's what it is. And that's why Trump invented this fucking space army bullshit. You know what I mean? Is because they realized that, look, space is going to be a lot more contested than people thought it was. We need our own branch of the armed services up there. We need to prepare people for spatial combat and wreckage is falling to Earth. And, you know, we're going to be fighting over planets and asteroids. And, or maybe it's, like I said, maybe there's going to be an exodus. Maybe people are going to be leaving this fucking planet. Maybe the rich people are going to get in their fucking giant super ships and giant triangles that hold however many people, and they're going to be taken off because an asteroid's coming or climate change is inevitable.
Well, Pat, if you paid your $35, then you'll get your own pleasure craft. And
callback.
I had to. It's the only thing I think about now whenever we talk about leaving the planet. It's crazy.
Right.
I've been invaded. But I think those are all really good points. You know, I obviously I disagree. But you know, what do I know? Fuck, I do a podcast in my haunted bedroom. I don't know shit, you know. It's, you know, I don't know anything. I just, you know, from my own timeline and things that I've been gathering, which I'm not completely ready to come out and be like, well, I think this because of this, because I've got the evidence here for that, and blah 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 blah. But I mean, eventually I will come out and do. I don't know if it's going to be on the show, or I don't know if it's going to be its own separate.
It better be. Fucking.
That's like
You're sitting on something here. Don't fucking give it to.
It
Who
might
else
need
going
to
to
be
give it to?
something that's done in a more visual style. So I mean, hey, if we get this live, or you know, at least on video, then I think we could do it better. But you know, I have been working on this actively. And I do think it's interesting. I want to go over what the bill actually says, because you know I see everybody's interpretations of it, and whatnot. But I'm one of those people. You know, I don't like hearsay. I want the information straight from the horse's mouth. So I want to read it, you know, and really go over it.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, what I read was directly from the legislation, and like I said, it's not. That's it. And whether or not they're not forced to comply, it's a request in 180 days to release this information. Biden could come in and fuck those things up. Trump could not leave and fuck those things up. We could all forget about COVID, could mutate and start turning people into crab people or some shit.
Like, fuck you, we're not doing this. You know, anything can happen. Or, you know, on the flip side of that, this could happen any day now. Fuck, it could have already happened during the time of this episode. We don't know.
Well, yeah, I mean, who knows? They're taking it day by day. So going back to your theory about you think that there was a treaty that existed. That's something that goes back to
people, Eisenhower at minimum.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's something that you hear about from time to time.
Yeah.
What treaty do you think was broken?
Well, so what's very interesting is that in the upcoming events in space exploration, we're going to the moon in 2024, or 2024. And you know, NASA's made this big announcement that we're going to the moon. And do you know what we're going to the moon for? Are you up to speed on the space?
No.
Plants. So when we go to the moon, we are going there to farm certain things, so that way we can create fuel or something. And I don't have all my notes in front of me right now, but we can create something that can propel us from the moon further out in space. The reason why we're doing it is so we can leave. Because as of right now, the ultimate goal is to get in on cash in on Mars somehow still. we're looking at colonizing that area, or maybe another area. So I believe another area, period, another planet we want to colonize because we're killing ours, and we're not going to be able. We will kill the planet before anything else does. That's a fact. And we know that. And we know that's coming. And we know if we don't get our asses moving on it, then our species will not survive. And neither will anything else. So anyway, so we are going to the moon in 2024, and then we're using that as a jumping point to go other places, whether it be Mars or wherever. Like I said, I think this treaty it's possible that it hasn't been broken yet, but we plan on breaking it. And that could just be parameters. Maybe we've agreed to not enter certain aerospaces in space.
But why? Why would someone tell us you have to stay on this planet? Like, that's kind of fucked up.
Well, I don't know. Why do we tell other countries that they can't come into our airspace without
because it's
approval?
Well, I mean, I guess it's because. So what you would be suggesting is that, like, somebody has told us, listen, don't go to Mars.
That's one
You
theory.
guys, yeah, you have one planet, you have one moon. That's kind of your deal. You stay, because we shoot probes into space all the fucking time. You know what I mean?
We do.
So the fact that man hasn't left to go to the moon, I think that was just like, we were there, it was really expensive, it's really dangerous, and we're not going to waste a bunch of time there. People were short-sighted in the applications of what could be gleaned from it. You know what I mean? In the 70s or the 80s, we weren't interested after Challenger and shit like that. Like, look, we're dumping a lot of money into this stuff, and sometimes we get there, and sometimes people almost get lost in space, and sometimes people die in the launch pad, and it's for what? For posterity, so we can say we've been there and the Iranians haven't. Like,
Right.
Okay, fucking big deal. So I could see that have kind of put a halt to the space race. Other things, there was more pressing matters at home.
And I agree with those things. Yeah.
Yeah, but like the fact that we were like kind of put in a fenced-in yard, like, I mean, I guess it's a possibility.
Because if we're going to go and colonize like Mars, or let's just say it's Mars, right? We go there and we colonize it. And, for one, there's theories that there's a whole civilization that lives inside of Mars. So we'd be putting whatever's in there in danger. And it's not just crazy big dick guy. That's something that's been going on for a long time. People believe
wow, this is like a greatest hits episode.
It is. Call back to 2020. But people do think that Mars has different, there's people living inside of it, or aliens or whatever living inside of it. But even if there's not, and we go and we colonize Mars, then what's the next step? We use up all its resources until we kill it. Now we've killed 3 planets in the solar system because we've killed Earth. We've probably killed the moon by mining it. Now we're killing Mars. So what happens? Then you fuck up the whole solar system. Well, what happens when you fuck up a solar system? Does it fuck up the galaxy? I mean, how deep does that go? And how does that affect how would that affect other life forms and other planets out there? And I mean, it could be that simple. They don't want us to be able to get up and go and spread our fucking virus of being a human race everywhere else. I mean, it could be that simple.
I don't think that's simple. I don't think that's the simplest.
Simple. I don't know.
Because who's to say that we do that? Who's to say that we? You're talking about something that would take us potentially like hundreds and hundreds of years to do.
Sure.
And you're trying to nip it in the bud by not letting us leave the planet now. And we're so. And here's the other thing too, is that if an advanced civilization with this type of aircraft and technology came to us and said, "Don't leave your planet, just hang out there," how, I guess, and maybe this is even more dire, but what would propel us to challenge that? You know what I mean? Because like, you got to have a real good fucking reason to go up against those people. Or whatever they are. You know what I mean?
So like, because I mean, it's not like it would affect anybody in this lifetime. if we
Well, no, no, no. I mean, like, so, like, we're, we get visited by this advanced culture, this advanced species that flew in on their spaceships, and they land, and they say, "Hey, look, we flew in on fucking spaceships, and we landed, and we have telepathy, and we have all this stuff, and we're telling you to not leave this planet." And you say, "Holy shit!" And they're like, "In return for not leaving this planet, we're going to give you iPhones and superconductors and all this other stuff." And you're like, "All right, cool. We'll sit tight, right?" And then they get on their planes and they fly away. But sometimes they still fly around and make their presence known to us, right?
Mhm.
And then one day you decided, you know what? Fuck those guys. Let's go pick a fight with them. I know they told us not to do this, but let's do it anyway, and let's get prepared to go to war with them. Like, holy shit! Like, you want to? I don't think there. I would hope that, like, there's people in our military that would be smart enough to be like, that's a fucking bad idea. Like, these people already have us outclassed and
I mean,
outgunned.
you would think that, Pat, but the Holocaust was a thing. I mean, there are people that are just compliant, and the thing is that we're stupid as humans. We are dumb, and I'm not saying that in like a condescending type of, oh, I'm better than everybody because I'm woke type of way. It's just, it is the way it is. We operate on ego and greed and a multitude of other things that might not exist with these advanced civilizations anymore.
But there's also a reason that the Cold War lasted 50 years is because we were afraid of the Russians. And the Russians didn't have anything, but we didn't really know that, or we weren't entirely sure. So for 50 years, we lived in fear of the Red Menace, and for 50 years, those people had to wait in line for fucking potatoes and blue jeans. They didn't even get blue jeans, fucking potatoes, right?
Yeah.
So, like, we were afraid of a superpower that was undergunned because our intelligence was so poor that they were undergunned, they were fucking starving, they had nothing, and we still lived in fear of them for the entirety of the Cold War. I can't imagine that. So that's who's calling the shots. That's who's running the country, and that seems like a very prudent, conservative way to approach the situation. This what this would be with breaking a treaty with a superior intelligence that most definitely has us outgunned, which could potentially even have mind control powers.
Right,
Like,
we don't
from
know. Yeah,
what you're
I mean,
saying,
I see what
yeah,
you're saying.
yeah, it would be like it's almost fucking suicidal. And if that is true, and I'm not saying it's not, but if it is true, it almost frightens me to consider what could make us what's worse than that.
Yeah.
Because the only reason we would choose door number one is if we know what's behind door number two, and it's a hell of a lot fucking worse. So if we're ready to betray these things and potentially start an intergalactic war with them, it must be to save our own asses from something that's
Well,
even more final and more unavoidable and even more unwinnable.
right, but what we're looking at would be our own extinction. So it's death, or at least die trying. You know what I mean? So that's the thought process that we're in. Now, it's not a perfect science, and I have other theories also, but I like this one. I think it's kind of fun. I think it's fun to think about a big space war, and I'll be honest. But and it, I mean, the timelines of things does make sense. I don't know. Maybe in private, before I do anything with it, I'll sit down and show it all to you. Because it is fascinating, because it does go back so far. But I mean, whatever the treaty is, and maybe that's not what the treaty is. Maybe it's not about aerospace. I don't know. Maybe we accidentally broke it. Maybe they're already pissed at us. I don't know. Maybe it was something else. Maybe they had one of theirs here. It died, and we haven't told them yet. I don't know. So now what choice do we have? They're going to be so mad at us that we need to be ready to fight these things. There's so many different ways to see this. However, I don't think all of this is an accident. I think that I think the timeline does add up. I think there is a legitimate timeline there, and I think that it's all connected. We just got to figure out the rest of the puzzle, and maybe we'll get something in 180 days. I'm gonna bet probably not. If we do, it's probably gonna be another video. There's more videos. They've already said that they've got more, or they've got more evidence. It'll probably be something like that. Nothing too crazy, but you don't know what you don't know, so we'll just we'll have to see. I'm excited for it though. I want to I hope that this will give me more information as a researcher, as an investigator, to piece something together finally, because I've got all the tools here. I just don't have the know-how, I guess, to put them together.
Yeah, I hear you. It'll be interesting, to say the very least.
It's fun. It's a lot of fun, at least at the moment. And I'm shocked that more people aren't talking about it. So,
yeah.
But, all right, guys. Well, anything else we want to say before we cut off here? Or?
No, I'm good for this week.
Yeah, me too. All right, guys. Well, we will come back next Wednesday. We might have a guest next Wednesday. So we'll.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, we'll talk about it. We'll see. But either way, we will see you guys again in another week. Hopefully we have aliens by then.